you're ready to hear me, eh? I'm ready. Fine.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, watching me live from Blackwood Fire Network uh, platforms. It is Thursday. Today is, of course, 5th of 9th of May 2024. If you're watching me on Twitter for the first time, please endeavor to like and follow this Twitter page, Blackout Fire Radio, Blackout Fire Network, and of course YouTube Blackout Fire Network too. Endeavor to like and follow this page, this YouTube channel. Sorry, subscribe. Endeavor to subscribe to this YouTube channel, Blackout Fire Network too. And those that always watch us from Facebook, Blackout Fire Radio Station, endeavor to like and follow the page. Yeah, today's topic is about uh, increasing food prices in Africa, or food price increase in Africa. Yeah, over very many so food price increases in Africa have been a significant concern, impacting, of course, households and economies across African continent. Talking about a heavy resilience on food imports in Africa, this is, of course, one of the reasons why we see food prices increasing in Africa today. So, the sub-Saharan Africa heavily relies on food imports, including staple foods like wheat, palm oil, and rice. So, this relying on imported things in, of course, in on imported food in Africa has caused food prices to hike, because these are things that are transported to Africa, where the transporter expects to get profits at the end of the day. Before getting profits, a lot of taxes are taxed on these staple foods. So because of this import dependence, changes in the global food of prices directly affect local prices in many African countries. Most of the foods, most of most of the foods I see, most of the imported foods I see, these foods come with, of course, tagged prices. In, of course, African countries, they come with their tagged prices. So it's not you to determine the price in those in African in different African countries. So these foods come with the target prices during the airtime. So the pass-through effect from global to local food prices is nearly one-to-one in some nations. So, hmm, honey, bunoka yali akabanyi eh alina muyita kaaba So, um, black fires in love. I think it is so. Local supply disruptions. We see that I've talked about heavy resilience on food imports in African countries. We see a lot of African foods being imported outside Africa. Is it because that Africans are becoming so weak? Uh, no sound bad. Yeah, Jib Jabba. Hello, Jib Jabba. Let me hope you're doing good. Uh, should I think that I'm clear or sorry, but I don't know why sound is on and off. Hmm? I think it is a simile. I don't know why sound is on and off, but let me hope I'm clear now. So I was saying, Jibjaba, I don't know. Let me hope I'm clear now. Like very many very many African countries depend on. Don't touch anything. It's on now. Okay, Jibjaba. Okay, Jibjaba. So so a lot of countries in Africa depend on, of course, on imported food. Starting the foods that actually would have been produced here in Africa, they're now they're now they're now imported to Africa. Starting with beans, potatoes. They normally call the local potatoes. Mondo Mugana. People import that food. People they import. People import rice, wheat, noodles, noodles. So this independence has caused a lot of prices to hike. So we see that sub-Saharan Africa heavily relies on food imports, including staple foods like rice, like palm oil, and of course rice. So, yeah, they import. Yeah, everything is imported. But how do these prices hike? Because we no longer produce these things at large scale. Now we resort to what? To importing to supplement the small production we do here. So Because of this, of course, import dependence changes in global food prices directly affect local prices in many African countries. And we see that the pass-through effect from global to local food prices is nearly one-to-one in some nations. Kitegeera? So, uh, we have seen a lot of foods that could have been produced here being imported. And whenever, of course, commodities are brought to African countries, they come with their own prices. They come with the price tags, a year-round season, growing season.
Yeah. Yes, we do. We have tuna season make sister bidi
Yeah.
nekidependinga ku kye balimi. Yeah.
They may be true.
Yeah. So we naye nga estimation eri two generally, but
There are two rainy seasons, but
but the seasons of growing depends on what you're growing. Actually, some others it is like one, like matoke. But again, when a matoke we do to kokula ndoza twice in a year. Not a jigula bali tema to get it down. So like matoke, it takes 9 months, so we shall say once, and it's generally and plantain. But these other things, they are planted like twice, thrice. But generally, we should say that we have like 2 seasons, all right, in a year. Yeah. So, but
people keep on planting.
But a growing season, people keep on planting because you will find like for example, our plantings are rotational, seasonal rotational. You find that probably someone has planted maize in the first garden, and then they are harvesting maize. Some other maize is still growing, so you find that we have it throughout there. So yeah, we have around a year-round growing season. Though because before we had 2 seasons of rainfall, we had the rainfall divided into 6 months. 3 months, 4 months. But now it has changed. But like whenever the climate changes or the weather changes, then again there is there are certain crops or plants that are introduced that are favorable. Yeah, thanks. That's great. Similar to the southern states in the U.S. like Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana. Yeah. Yes. And Mississippi, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana. Yeah, those people are known to be good farmers. But in a weather, when you look around Mississippi, Texas, stuff, yeah, it's like they're always around. There are some other places that are covered with vegetation or green grasslands. I think Texas was filled with cowboys. Cowboy.
I thought cowboys, they normally do cattle rearing most. And horses rather than
But anti kati jukira ezo zibeera wali omuddo. Texas, omanyi eno drink eriko Texas. Is it gin? Drink eya Texas.
Texas drink, yeah.
Ebeerako n'omukawboy n'akakofiira bw'ati.
With actually, they call it a kabai spot. Those harmless things.
Yeah, waka boycott. Waka chichani, but so the season, but nowadays seasons are changing, and unfortunately, people are not changing according to seasons. People need to be told what is going on so that people can get to understand in order to combat the food decrease and the increase of prices of food. Recently when Bill Gates was introducing GMOs, and of course the pharmaceuticals that were dealing with pesticides and other products that fight pests. in farms and wheat. All right. They used to always call their product. They used to call.
Mm.
So they used to they used to call their products. Yongerako omusajja ajja kujjaawo. They used to yongerako ba viewers. They used to call their products climate resistance crops, climate resistance chemicals. Basically, when it came to GMO plants and crops, then they call them more climate resistant crops. That's the name that is given to genetically modified things. And whenever Africans would hear that word, so you mean that maize is climate resistant? So that means if I plant, it's pest resistant. That means if I plant that maize, no matter the weather, no matter the season, no matter, it is going to grow. So people started neglecting. And this is why we started seeing floods, heavy rains, because they wanted to market their genetically modified seeds and other things that they have actually generated. And this has really worked because apparently people are resorting to that system. Someone says that you go and spread the weed. All right, if you have planted corn or maize, you go and spray anything that is not maize, it's going to die. But there is a lot in that soil that is not maize, really. And people have taken this, and I feel like the laziness, and of course, forgetting the agricultural culture of Africa and how we culturally used to cultivate has led to what we have now, because we do not have choices to the prices of food. You cannot make a choice because you forgot about farming and your traditional farming methods long time back. But the mouth has never forgotten to eat. Okay? But you've never forgotten to eat. Now, a lot of people now are focusing. There is a high demand of cash within the society, that a lot of people rather focus on the cash flow, the cash, and how they're making that cash, but they forget the major thing, because there are basic things in life that whether you have cash or not, you should have. You can decide not to go to school and you will not die. All right. When you wake up and you say, Maria, I cannot afford my university tuition now, I'm applying for a degree, I'm not going to die if I do that. All right. If I wake up one time and say, I'm not going to buy this new clothes because I cannot afford it, I'm not going to die if I don't buy that new clothes. All right. Now, these are the things that the societies are really prioritizing. And the things that are basic, like healthcare, food, all right, shelter, because no matter how people will say food is not important and blah blah, food is important because that it is food. First of all, is it creates our soul, and that's why we have what we call that's why we have what we call the soul food. All right, when we through food we are able to boost our immune system. We are able to, of course, boost our brain. We are able, if at all you eat the right food. Okay, now these are things that the society has made us neglect. Spikes, of course. Thank you for coming. All right, peace back to you, Spikes. Hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining our show. So, food as itself, it is something that we cannot do away with. You may pretend about anything, but you cannot pretend about the fact that food is needed. All right, and when you look at the reason why the majority of Africans are carrying out agriculture, is not because they are planting food to be eaten. They are planting this for economic reason.
Yeah.
They are planting this to get money. They are planting crops, they are doing farming in order to earn cash, not for them to consume. They don't even think about who is going to consume. Because if people are thinking about who is going to consume this food, then definitely, probably, maybe it would be a little bit fairer. All right. Now, these are the same people who are doing agriculture for money or economical purposes or money purposes, which really wasn't the way Africans used to. This wasn't our tradition. First of all, like I said, the moment you neglect your entire ancestral system, this is why we find everything going wrong. We wouldn't be importing food because Africa is among the nations that has the most fertile soils on earth. But we are still importing food from other countries, which really does not make sense. We are capable of growing food, and the food we grow in Africa, I can tell you and also guarantee that it tastes extremely different. It tastes extremely different. Now, we have food prices increase in Africa.
Yeah, I get the crop rotation. Ennaku zino sikyalaba nnyo crop rotation.
Yeah.
Okimanyi? Ennaku zino sikyalaba nnyo.
Well,
I no longer see people doing crop rotation these days. You find someone is investing in maize only. He buys this GMO maize. He gets fertilizers, those artificial fertilizers. He gets those fertilizers. He plants maize every season. Plants maize every season. Yeah, through.
Yeah,
I've seen people in the villages, and these are the people that are having big land to cultivate stuff, but they no longer do crop rotation. Crop rotation worked for people that, of course, that had small land, that had a few interests for, of course, for money. Okitegeera, for money, because like you find someone, you can't of course do crop rotation. Some people take maize to be easy to cultivate and to care for. So you find very many people going in for maize. You can never see someone like today is planting maize, the next day is planting beans. I've not seen such people.
Spike says our farming methods and systems are outdated and often underutilizing the potential. Underutilizing the potential. I would. I really. What do you think about Spike's comments? Spike's comment about the farming methods and the systems being outdated.
This is true because African environment, first of all, has changed. Environment has changed. You find out that the days, like the way we used to receive rain, because most of the farming activities in Africa, most of the foods that we grow here, our farming activities are, of course, geared by rain at most times. So you may find out that we no longer receive rains the way we used to receive them. Together and the sunshine. So I guess why he's saying that the farming methods are outdated. You find out like people are producing now. The families have expanded compared to the days. If at all you do subsistence farming, you are having an extended family of 25 people. You do subsistence farming, you need money to educate children. So kati bw'oba ogenda kukola subsistence oba ogenda kubeezaawo oti abaana. Into those systems that we had earlier, like Ezalinga Wedda, they are no longer, of course, applicable right about now. We have been talking about crop rotation.
What is the biggest, if at all I don't know if you have checked the statistics or, but this is according to you on a personal level. So you may be right or wrong. It doesn't care. It's according to you on your personal level. What do you think is the biggest expenditure? Okay, the biggest thing that Africans are spending on nowadays. What is the biggest thing that you feel like Africans are spending on? That at least, not to say everybody's not doing that, but at least the biggest population of Africans are spending on. And you're very sure whether someone is in the up country or in the cities. I'm posing this question still to Spikes. What do you think is the biggest thing that Africans are spending on? Both those in the urban and the rural areas. All right. What do you think is the biggest thing that you see people are spending on? That you see the prices probably have become high and they are spending on that compared to any other thing.
Now, looking at the new, of course, farming activities and system and how they are done, today we see long time or like in ancient times, one to do farming or agriculture, one needed land
Yeah.
and seeds. Today those things are today you need land, seeds and fertilizers. Which together today someone needs three things to start agriculture, to start cultivating. You need land, you need fertilizers, and you need of course the seeds. But in ancient times one needed two things. So how has this of course led to of course for prices to hike? You find out like someone has invested a lot in planting, caring for these crops, pruning stuff, mulching, weeding stuff. Okitegeera ate bitaliwo edda. During those days tewalingawo like a lot of diseases, a lot of crop diseases, a lot of pests. So what does it mean? What like what does what do I mean in this? Like people nowadays depend what ongambi kireetera prices okwayitinga oba nga kibadde loko nga abantu bakikola buli lunaku.
Abantu kye badipendingako ennyo kubanga
Planting anyhow. They're just planting anyhow.
Jim Java says, take care, good conversation. I must leave for a bit. All right, Jim Java, we are looking forward to seeing you again. He said that in US it's food, rent or mortgage, utilities as far as bill primacy. That's a comment from GB Java, and it's not different from Africa, really. Food, yeah, and that's why we're discussing about the food prices. The food is a necessity. All right, food is a necessity, and rent and mortgage, and actually the comments Jibjaba is all the things that Jibjaba has, of course, dropped are very extremely important, and I think this is the entire globe. The globe is focusing mainly on the thing. Like I said before, we may have school. You may decide to drop out of school and you're not gonna die. Though you'll be shivering a little bit about your future, but it's not gonna kill you. And at times maybe you may even earn more than someone who's going to school. But food, all right? No one can do away with our food. Now, if we say that the food, let me call it a department, I will say the food department has been attacked. All right. As Sparks is talking about the farming methods and systems that are outdated and are underutilized, they are and often underutilizing the potential. But basically, let me say, we are using. I will try to describe a little bit on Spike's comment. Let me say, probably you have got a huge farm, and then we do not have harvesting machines like the ones we see that people in Canada and other places use them, or China, the machines that harvest cabbages, stuff and stuff. In Africa, we still have to have manual people harvesting these things. All right. So I guess it takes a lot of time compared to a machine doing that, which is underutilizing the potential. Of course, that time, all right, the time that you would have probably maybe taken whatever it is to the market and all that. But I will also say we should bear in mind, Spikes, that most of these equipments or the machineries that are actually built from Africa do not even favor. I've seen places where there is a lot of loam soil. All right. You understand, like a place in Kabale. Last time you were telling me about Kabale and stuff like that. It is very hard for a grader, sorry, for a tractor to cultivate. Oshageda. I've ever seen places where it is hard for you to bring tractors. The loam soil is so thick, it's so black. At times the tractors they are sleeping, they cannot move in the farms that they're supposed to be farming. So at times I'll be looking at it and I'm like, maybe the oxen is better doing this than the tractor. But when we look at the tractor, it completes the area within a shortest time. So at times when these people are manufacturing some of these things, really, they do not look at Africa's environment and how the machinery is going to suit the African environment. Spike says still housing, food and utilities and the taxes, but food security is a major concern. Exactly. Now, this is something that we see and realize, we Africans, we realize that food is a major concern when we are hungry. Okay? Until we are hungry and we go to the shop, now this is a problem. Until you're hungry and you go to a grocery store or wherever or the marketplace is when you got to understand that, okay, so this is it. All right.
And actually, even COVID also
it brought issues.
brought issues.
And then you're gonna say, this is it. And the moment you go back home and eat, you forget. Because we tend to realize that a lot of people are focusing on many useless things than the major important. We said that we have got a lot, by the way, Spikes. Do you know that most of the farmers we have, by the way, Kenya has a lot of farmers. A lot of, I think, let me call them high scale farmers than the ones in Uganda. We don't have a lot of prominent farmers here, though we have people doing farming. But Kenya has a lot of farmers associations. Here we have big piece of land that is owned by not many, by some individuals. And in Kenya, you find that approximately someone is doing poultry, cattle, and stuff. Yeah, I also know the government also has some farms. At least I knew of Kenyatta. I don't know of the current Ruto guy and the farms, but I guess he does, because every rich African man should have a farm, which is very common. So you realize that most of these people who are doing this farming or the agricultural part, they are not focusing on the local consumption. Now, this is the problem we have. And that's why even the choices of the food that we are producing is selected by our buyers. So recently we had the Ugandans farm maize, and all of the maize farmers started exporting the maize to Sudan. And Uganda ran out of maize, and then we ran to Kenya to buy maize. A country which was able and had the potential to feed Sudan with maize is now going back to Kenya to buy maize. Now, this is the poor agricultural planning that we have. All right. Now, you see a country, everybody, we are looking, we are not looking at us as the Africans, we are focusing on the money, yet the number one necessity that we have is the food. We are planting the same food and forgetting this is why we want to get money. We want to get money to eat. We want to get money to be able to afford the food and these other basic needs. But again, when we are planting, we forget that as Maria, I'm planting this maize, I also want to eat some. I also want to give my people some, all right? But now I focus on how much am I going to get from this maize? And now this is the problem. Before, when Africans used to carry out agriculture, it was for the benefit of the Africans. Now, when we carry out agriculture, it is no longer for the benefit of the Africans, but rather the government and individuals. And at the end of the day, you even find that even where you are taking this food, they are benefiting more than you. We wouldn't be seeing rice being brought to Africa. We wouldn't be seeing this palm oil being brought to Africa. We wouldn't be seeing, in fact, it is a shame to see Africans importing food. It is a typical shame to see Africans importing food, even beans. You import beans? When did that start? It is a shame. If every household had that, and by the way, I'm sorry, maybe this is in East Africa, but Spikes, you and I know very well. Whoever person is in the rural area, sorry, in the cities of African countries, still has a village where they come from. All right, but you realize that most of us. Thank you. Have you taken some? You realize that most of us have neglected that countryside. All right, and the people in the countryside are also focusing on the people who are in the city. They expect goodies from the city, and the people in the city are so ashamed to remind the people in the countryside that we are poor, because people in the city are really poor. We are poor, apart from sleeping in those big houses, having a huge flat screen, and having a woolen carpet on your floor, and then sleeping on whatever, covering yourself with a duplex and all that, and then whatever it is, and an expensive mattress. The people in the city are poor. I was discussing this with the INNOSSETU today, and I was like, if you recall, guys, on Friday I wasn't here, so I traveled up country on Friday, and I realized that a lot of people in that side have actually expanded. Yeah, they have expanded financially. They are not hungry. Right? The moment you control the food chain, you will definitely prosper. People in upcountry don't buy. Check it out. They are not buying food. They have their small farmlands. Even when someone has a big farmland where they are doing the economical cultivation or agricultural part, they still have that should never go dry. Year in, year out, they keep on planting different things. It is very hard to see them moving to other towns buying things. They can afford this. And the moment you can afford something to eat, no one is going to control you.
You find people in villages. Olya kugamba mpa lukumi njagala lukumi. But n'olumu he does something huge for you just because he's sure he's going to get free food. All he needs is afunayo kaliika. Yeah, but and by the way, that's where they start. That's where this habit of people sharing alcohol comes from. Where it comes from. You find people in villages. You find like 10 people. They're sharing one bottle in bars. They get free food. All they need is
the moment and this we talk about a lot of things that. We talk about a lot of things. I'll read Spike's comments. It's good. We talk about a lot of things, but we neglect the attack that has been put on food. And this is not only in Africa, it's a global issue. Like I said, when someone can afford the food without trembling, that means that person is bound to prosper. That means there is room for a lot of other positive things. All right. I think it's a problem of exploitation by middlemen. Another problem is where people think that farming is not a good paying job. Jimmy Jabba, well, looking at the economical part, I would say really, most Africans know that farming is a good job, and that's why most of them are focusing. But the biggest question is, what are they farming? Like I said, most of the people are even farming things that cannot be consumed by their own people. We are seeing people farming vanilla on a very, very large scale. Moringa on a very extremely large scale. Now, this still drives me back to the days of the colonialists when they used to force Africans to farm cotton. Each household had to farm cotton in East Africa, whether you liked it or not. Cotton tea, all right? Each house
And gloves in Ghana.
and clothes. Each house you and gloves in Ghana. Each house you made sure that you had to make sure that for you to be on a secure side of the British or the colonizers, you had to plant. Not for you, because they never bought this. For you, you had to plant and also plant your other small food for consumption, but also plant for them. Every household had to.
And for me, I've seen a lot of people clearing banana plantations for coffee. I've seen a lot of people clearing banana plantations for
But
avocado.
are you
For
going to
avocado.
chew?
For avocado.
But are you going to chew the coffee seeds? At the end, you have to
For
plant coffee
avocados.
on a
People
huge
planting mangoes on a large scale. They're
and
clearing
yeah.
banana. So why the system?
Mangoes even say a biologist, the nutritionists tell you that even a slice of a mango, all right, a